And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Jerry Wills, near-death and ET experiencer, founder of Expeditions TV. Jerry is an explorer and metaphysical researcher who has spent decades traveling the globe in search of ancient knowledge, lost civilizations, and the subtle energies that weave through all life. Jerry, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome.
It's a real privilege to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate that.
Well, Jerry, I'd like to start with your near-death experience. And if you don't mind, let's start on the day you died and go from there.
It was a troubling day, I must tell you. It's not every day you die. I was working for this place called Stage Sound. My background is electronics engineering, and I designed, a very large, let's say 3 foot wide, 4 foot tall, and at least, 27 inches deep, huge steel case that I had designed all the electronics equipment that was in it. And this was meant to be a switching center so that the airplane hangar it was going into, they were putting in a false roof is going to be turned into classrooms. And the idea was you could walk up into any classroom, plug in a microphone, the system would sense what room you're in, and you plug it in, and it would automatically sense the room and adjust the microphone for you. Well, I designed that. Now, these people, Stage Sound, they actually were a company that outfitted huge concerts in the greater Phoenix area. People like Fleetwood Mac and Alice Cooper and so forth. I got the chest there. They delivered it. I didn't get it there. And I showed up and I went through testing each of the mock-ups because they were just wires hanging down at that point. They were going to be mounted into a wall that hadn't been made yet. So I went through testing them and some of them didn't work. Well, the reason they didn't work is because these people were so damn cheap, they wouldn't spend an extra 35 cents on a good relay. That was aggravating for me, but I did it anyway. So they said, well, you're going to have to get up there and fix it. Well, they already put it away the hell up the top of the airplane hangar. I mean, you know how tall those things are. If you've never been in one, you look up and it's like you just keep looking up. It's way the hell up there. So this guy, my boss, Pat, he decided that he was going to have a team of guys, instead of erecting scaffolding, get this big ladder and put it up there and junk. It fell into place. They had this platform. It was about, it wasn't quite 5 foot square. And this ladder is up against that. I took a look at the ladder. It's like I've never seen a ladder that tall in my life. Well, I grabbed a hold of it. One of the feet were missing off of it. And this is on a polished concrete floor. And sawdust around. And other dust. I said, I don't trust this. He says, you either go up there and fix that damn thing or you're fired. You're going to walk the hell home. Well, okay. So I knew it was wrong. I knew the module. I knew the part. I knew where on the PC board the part was. All these relays plug in. I designed this thing. So, with great trepidation, I started climbing up very, very slowly. And I got to the very top. And when I got to the top, I had both feet on the platform. And I loosened the nuts in the front. They're just twist-offs. It comes out and you pull the rack out. And I'm nervous, man. So I did that. I had to reach way over there, stretch, get that one, come back, get this one. And I'm working it out. And it snagged. I forgot. all of those cables plugged into the back of this damn rack. So I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Pushed it back in, started pulling these things out. Now I'm reaching around. I can't even see. I'm just doing it by feel. And I'm pushing on, just, trying to unhook these connectors. There was a loud crack. The platform just tilted. And me and this big iron chest full of electronics equipment fell into empty space. With the door of the thing open. It had a door that closed on it, open to the right. So I'm falling. I know I screamed, grasped at something. I blacked out. The next thing I know, I'm having such real, vivid experiences. I was about 27 at the time. And I wasn't a bad person. I guess no one thinks they are. But really, I wasn't. But there were times maybe I'd taken advantage of a situation, or I could have been honest and I wasn't as honest or even honest. I mean, when you're young, you do shit like that, and you're just, you look at it now and go, yeah, well, you had some growing up to do. But here I am, facing myself in this vivid experience. I am the person, let's say, that I was being dishonest to. And I got to experience me. Now, not all of these were that kind of experience, but the ones that absolutely stuck out in my mind are those. The rest of them, I got to see what it was like to see myself as my little girl's father, my wife's husband, that sort of thing. But the ones that were most troubling were the ones I could have been a better person. And then it ended. And I was left with this incredibly deep sense of regret, because I knew I was dead. And I knew there was nothing that I could do to make any of that better. And it was a heartache. And all the time that I had wasted. I mean, you just never think about the time you wasted. It was just like stupid things to do, just wasting time, or someone's there that could use your help and you're just too busy. I got to be the guy watching me walk away. I had too many regrets, man. And it hurt. I was sad. Then suddenly, it's as though I'm sitting on the edge of a building. There was no building. There wasn't anything I could see visibly that I was sitting on, but it was like I was sitting on the edge of a building. My legs dangling, the knees down over the side. I'm leaning forward on my, hands on my knees, looking down. There I am on the floor in this heap. This big metal chest crumbled 2 feet from my head. That door that was open, it was busted, but it was about 1.5 feet from the top of my head. If it had been another 1.5 feet this way, to just cut my head off. And I'm looking at myself, and I thought, oh, I didn't feel any pain. I felt pretty good. And there was this voice. I have no idea who it was. But there was this voice, and it said, Jerry. I said, yeah. I kind of leaned back a little bit. What are you doing here? And I said, well, I fell, and now I'm dead. So I guess that's that. I said, no, you haven't even started doing what you're supposed to be doing. You haven't even started yet. You can't stay here. I said, no, I think I will. It feels pretty good. I like it. said, no, you have to go back right now. Well, at the utterance of the word now, mentally imagine a nuclear bomb going. It was that kind of force just overwhelmed me. And I opened my eyes and I couldn't breathe. And I was struggling and I hurt. And there's people around me and he's breathing. And, quick, take care of his neck, put a collar on his neck and put him on this hard board. And there were ambulances or an ambulance and paramedics. I was back in my body. And so in and out of consciousness, went to the hospital. And I come to my wits. I'm in a bed. I'm thinking to myself, I'm alive. Well, that was quite a revelation. Doctors come in and I had a hole right through this hand. A hole. And it was bandaged up like you would not believe. It was like a big old snowball on my hand. Tubes coming out. Had tubes in my arms. And they had me in this neck brace and had me just flat. They'd done x-rays. I had broken this, that, and the other. Probably a concussion. So I landed on a cement floor from way the hell up there. And so they had me follow the light and do all the things. I really didn't feel that bad. And so they left. I don't know how long I'd been there. So I decided it was time for a cigarette. So I started wrapping this crazy bandage thing. So much there you would believe. Them big cotton wads. Pulled them off. I just had a scratch on my hand, just right there. Nothing on the back. And then here I had this thing on my neck. So I got that off. And then I got myself out of bed. Well, there's my clothes. They had taken and cut my jeans off of me and my groovy t-shirt, my underwear. It was just all over there in a pile. Belt wrapped up and sit on top of it. And there's my cigarettes and lighter. And I'm thinking to myself, I need some clothes. So I called my friend Neil and I told him the situation. He says, yeah, I heard you were hurt. So he grabbed some of my clothes. I was staying with him, grabbed my things, brought them down, and I'm laying in bed. Meanwhile, the doctors come in. What, you took that all off your hand? My God, you're going to need surgery. And I said, for what? And I showed it to him. They said, no, that's impossible. You had a hole. Something went all the way through your hand. I said, well, there's nothing on the back, and it's just a scratch in the front. They didn't know about that, so they left. Neil showed up, brought me my clothes. Now I'm getting dressed, and I'm standing up, kind of twisting my neck, twisting my back. I feel like I've been in one position too long. Doctors walk in. They freak the hell out. You've got broken this vertebrae's neck, and your pelvis is fractured, and all this stuff. I said, well, it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to go out and have a cigarette. I'll come back and we can continue this in a little while. Nope, we got to take you right to x-ray, see if you've messed anything up. They took me to x-ray. That was a lengthy ordeal. I got back from X-ray. I put my clothes back on because I had to put on that stupid thing. It opens the back, the gown. And I was going to walk out. The doctor showed up again. It's going to be a long time before I have a cigarette. He pops up the X-rays. Here's the ones from, I guess, yesterday. And he says, "How is this even possible?" I said, "What?" He says, "Okay, yesterday, see these fractures, broken. He says, this is just, half hour ago. Nothing." I said, "I don't know." I said, "But what I do know is I'm going to go have a cigarette now." So I called Neil. He's going to come pick me up. And I'm leaving. The doctor says, "You're going to need some pain meds." They gave me a bag, a medium-sized brown paper bag with all kinds of pills in it. Took a look at it. I don't even know what was in there. They said I was going to be in terrible pain. So I walked out in front of the hospital, tossed those in the garbage, and went out under a tree. It was a hot summer day in Phoenix. Finally had my cigarette. Neil shows up. We went home. Never had any problems after that at all. So that's my near-death experience.
Well, thanks for sharing it with us. When you were seeing your life, which I would call basically you had a life review, would you say that it was only you judging yourself? Like the voice wasn't judging you or there was no other being judging you?
There was nothing judging me. I was judging myself. I mean, my God, somebody else can judge you and it doesn't hit you in the heart. You judge yourself. Oh, damn. Ever since then, and I know I've faltered. I mean, how could I not? But ever since then, I've never forgotten that lesson. An act of kindness is never wasted. You don't do kind things because you're going to get some benefit from it. You do it because you're a kind person. And you treat others with respect and integrity.
It's interesting that you mention kindness because out of having so many near-death experience guests, the common denominator is that the most important things that we do here are random acts of kindness.
Yeah, and for the sake of doing it, not because you get any reward for it. It's an expression of the God that lives within you. And I learned that lesson the hard way. Like I said, I wasn't a bad person. Maybe I didn't have my priorities straight. And I certainly could have been a much better person now in retrospect after having seen this. But yeah, it's not someone else judging you. Not at all.
Did you notice after this experience that you had any new abilities that could be considered psychic?
No, because I've been psychic since I was a child. I'm not sure you're even aware of what that aspect of my existence is, but I'm known all over the world as a healer. And as far as that causing any of my psychic abilities to become more profound or more closely linked to my awareness, no. And it's ironic because a side note to that story where that voice said, "You haven't even started doing what you're supposed to be doing. You haven't even started yet."
I know you said that you have no idea who the voice was during your NDE that told you about your purpose, but if you had to guess, who do you think it was?
God. Because I don't know anybody else on the other side. I mean, everybody I know on the other side, they're not God, and they don't have the ability to do what this presence was able to do. I mean, I've seen plenty of dead people. Had interactions with them. So, I mean, no, they don't have the capacity to do what this presence did. So I'm just presuming that it was God. I don't know who it was. But they knew about me.
Do you think it's possible that a, a complete version of us is on the other side and only a limited version is here? And if so, could that have been who was speaking to you?
Well, it's something I've always thought about, wondered about. But I don't think I'm that powerful to just blast myself back into my body. I've been on the other side many, many times. I've helped people cross over. I've met them on the other side after they crossed over, including my son years ago. And I don't know who that was. As far as a version of myself, I don't know. I mean, if it was myself, am I that powerful to blast myself back into my body? I don't think so. Of course, I don't know my limitations either. So
Yeah.
who knows? You could be right. I guess the only way to find out is once I go back.
Right. Well, some of my guests have said that we are far more powerful than we realize.
Well, that's true. And I mean, far more powerful in your body than you realize. The greatest constraint that people have is doubt and having adopted a belief system that limits them. And you get past that, well, good grief. What could you do?
Well, the trick is, how do you get past it?
By knowing yourself. And that sounds trite. But the thing is, we come into the world. The first thing that happens is we learn what no is. So subcaption here, limitations. No. Don't do that. You can't do that. Color inside the lines, not outside the lines. But I'm seeing those colors. No, you're not. You get molded into a form that is duplicating the mentor. And you believe this, and you live your life by it. And everything you do subconsciously is running that series of limitations. What can I do? What can't I do? Should I go doing this? Oh, I'm afraid I might get hurt. Well, after I died, I came back. What the hell? I'm not afraid of getting hurt. So if I die, I know it's there. I had no limitations. So maybe that's one of the things that did help to promote my abilities a little bit further, insofar as much as not being afraid to just be myself. But a lot of folks, they don't know who they are. I mean, they know who they are, but you see, you really don't know yourself. You pick up a mask and you put it here in front of you because you want everyone looking this direction to be comfortable. You want to be accepted. And God help you if you pull the mask away and they all gasp and turn away from you. That's exactly what happened at the end of my last marriage. I dropped the mask. I said, enough of this. I can't be trying to wear this mask that allows you to feel comfortable while I'm not. Everyone has their own mask. And some of these are quite valid. Father, husband, wife, brother, we all have some aspect of this. And we're afraid to drop that because we don't know what the acceptance level is going to be if we do. But what if you did? What if you suddenly realize that your life is that long? Because that's what I saw. And the distance between being alive as we are right now and being dead is measured in how thick is an atom. And that's pretty thick compared to the difference between being dead and alive. You have a finite amount of time. What will you do with it? And if you're going to be trying something new, like psychic abilities or digging in to find out who you really are, it's challenging. People will fall away. Relationships will end. But the universe abhors a vacuum. So pretty soon, just like with me, what you're going to find is there'll be people gathering around you because they think that you're pretty groovy and they want to be around you. So you won't be alone. You just have to be yourself and not be afraid. You want to develop your psychic abilities? Do it. But you're not going to do it if you have doubt. Fear shuts it all down. And fear and doubt are the greatest limitations that we have in our lives. When you get rid of that, you're free.
I'm going to kind of switch gears here with you a little bit. Did your ET contact start after your NDE? And if so, do you
No,
think, oh, it didn't? How did it begin then?
just began a very long time ago. But let's take it from 12 years old. I was out stacking wood, living in Hills, Kentucky. A huge UFO came over and parked over a stand of pine trees. It was ginormous, silver. The full moon was glinting off of it, silver. And it spoke to me in my head. And then it moved away. Fast forward to the next, this was like in late October, early November-ish. I forgot the year now.
Wait, before you fast forward, what did it tell you?
It wasn't something you told me. It just was kind of like, hi, I see you there. Well, I want to talk. I want to see what you are. Not right now. We'll see you later. And then the wind's blowing from my left, and this thing went right into the wind, went right over the hill, and it just disappeared. It was gone. It was huge. And we're talking, Jesus Christ, I don't know. Trying to think how big that would have been. It was hundreds of feet long. Had these big round lights. There were 5 of them. And they were just dots. And it'd go bright on this one, then it would fade bright on that one, then bright on this one, then bright on that one, bright on that one. And then it would go backwards. It was just back and forth. It wasn't so bright it hurt your eyes, or kind of a pastel color, really. But it just was going back and forth. And when it decided to move, that stopped. So then we fast forward to the next summer. I'm 13. I might have been 13 then. I don't remember. Probably was. But I know I was 13 that summer. And I was going down into the down into the hollers. I was going to meet my friend Randy. There's supposed to be a place back in there where there was an old Civil War cemetery. And we were going to meet up. We called it Spook Holler. We'd never been there, but it just sounded like a good name. So I made it back in there to where the meeting place was supposed to be. Randy wasn't there. Instead, there's kind of a weird buzzing in the air. I don't know how you'd explain it, just a weird buzzing. I was sitting on this large mat of vivid green moss back against a tree, and I heard crunching like someone's walking. So I just closed my eyes. My idea was, yeah, well, you took so long, I fell asleep. Crunching came closer and closer, and finally it stopped in front of me. I'm expecting it to be Randy, but he didn't say anything. So I opened my eyes. There's a man standing there. Well, this guy has longish hair, not crazy long, but longish hair. Has on this outfit. This is right up against his neck. Now we would call these a lycra, the lycra outfit. But back then, you never heard of something like this. Went right down to the wrists, had a bit of a belt around the center, and it went right down. There was no seam, it just became boots or shoes. Form fitting, not crazy tight, but rather tight. And here's this guy standing there, and he said, "Hello, Jerry." And I felt very comfortable around him. And I said, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm so." I thought maybe we could just talk for a few minutes. Sure, what do you want to talk about? And so it started. And within a few minutes of talking, feeling a little lightheaded, now it was all happening in my head. And I noticed that, but it didn't alarm me. I could hear him very clearly. We were talking. It was so rapid. Communication was so precise and rapid, and it was just fine. Didn't miss a lick. And finally, he said that he's going to have to go. I said, "How'd you get here?" He says, "Well, I came in a small craft. It's just over there, down further into the holler where I could land." And sure enough, there was a place down there. It was kind of a clearing in the trees. You could see the sky. And I said, "Well, I want to see this." He says, "No, no, you just stay here. It's not time for that yet. Would it be all right if we had further conversations?" I said, "Sure, that'd be great." He says, "All right, I'll let you know. So when you hear this sound, just follow the sound." And then I heard what sounded like high speed Morse code in my head. Honest to God, it sounds like high speed Morse code. And so it stopped. He said, "I'll see you again soon." He walked off. He told me to stay there. I was very relaxed, so I just stayed there. I said, "When's Randy going to get here?" He says, "Randy's not coming. Probably should think about going home." And then he's gone. Heard the funny buzzing noise again. And after I didn't hear it, I got up. Now, in the forest, very high humidity. It was summer. I had on a t-shirt, the neck and the arms cut out, had on short pants, and I had on uh, combat boots that you get at the Army Surplus store. And it was so hot, I was drenched. This guy wasn't even sweating. Thought about that later. It would be a few weeks, I'd hear the beeping noise. In the middle of the night, it'd wake me up. We had an outdoor toilet, an outhouse, and I'd get up, go outside. No one's going to notice anything about that. And I went way back into the back of a field, and I saw him there. And I went back, talked to Zoe some more. I did that over and over, 3 or 4 times a month for the next several years. Winter, summer, didn't matter. Sometimes it was during the day. Not that often. But I had a genuine friendship with these people. I thought they were pretty all right.
Was he Caucasian?
Yeah,
I mean, he looked completely humanoid.
not much different than you, just different hair color, no glasses, and a little bit longer hair.
Did
If you
he
saw them walking on the streets, you wouldn't even know that they weren't from here.
did he ever reveal to you where he was from?
Yeah, he showed me pictures. He told me I was from there too.
Hmm.
A place called Lanulos. It's around a star that we call Tau Ceti.
Did he reveal to you that you're just having a human incarnation this time and they're checking up on you?
No. He revealed to me that they brought me here in a deal with President Eisenhower, and I was one of many who were brought here. Yeah. That's why I started at 12 years old, because there are other things that happened earlier, but there's not a lot of story to that. It's just distant memories.
When you say you were brought here at 12 years old, I'm not really.
No, I was brought here as a baby.
Is your official story that you were adopted?
Yes. And if you look at the birth certificate, it's not like any birth certificate you probably have ever seen. It's got a couple of names, a stamp, and that's it. Issued at the Fort Knox Army Medical Center. And the people that picked me up and took me there were part of the Army Air Corps. They picked me up in an abandoned farmhouse 12 hours later than they should have. But yeah, and I've met at least, well, only, not at least, but I've met only one of those men that was present when I was picked up. He sought me out.
I forgot the name of what the race is, but these beings that brought you here, they
Well, they're
what they gave you in exchange for what?
not in exchange for anything. This world was going into a direction that was perilous. It was time for the people on this world to get to a point where they advanced, that they got a little farther than what they were going to be, because there are other forces at work that are against the people of this world advancing. They don't want that. The only way you can maintain power over others is by manipulation. And manipulating knowledge, technology, that sort of thing. Sure, you can lie to them all day long. They'll only believe what they're told. And the idea was that there were things that were going to happen on this world. And it was necessary for me and many others who haven't made themselves public, so far as I know, to come here with our abilities to try and help. And I think, they all had their own unique abilities to share. And I think they have shared those abilities quite wonderfully from what I've seen. Some of them gained great notoriety. I never sought out any notoriety.
Do you have any other abilities?
Yeah, I do. I don't really talk about them because it goes into science, uh, biology, chemistry. A lot of things that I was taught during that many-year event with Zoe and others like him, and things that I just intuitively know. As far as abilities go, well, There are things that I can do, and I used to do them when I was younger. It was it was kind of like aggrandizement. Oh, I'm special because I can make this move, or I can do this, or I can do that, or I can read your mind, or whatever. At 72 years old, I've kind of grown out of the circus act. There are things I can do, but who the hell cares? It's just kind of gee whiz info. The most important thing that I do is to help other people.
Did they ever reveal to you the history of Earth and humanity? Like, for example, were we brought here from that planet or other star systems?
Human life didn't evolve on Earth. That's why they look like us. We come from out there. The people of this world come from out there. I was brought here, so I would be one of the people of this world. I have a right to be here. I started as a baby. Everything about me is this world: pizza, cigarettes, apple pie, hot dogs, root beer floats, all of it. All the wonderful things and all the things that are rich with avarice and envy, perhaps. But I've learned to be a part of what this world is all about, so I understand it very comprehensively. But yeah, people on this world didn't originate here. They have, there have been several different epochs, but by and large, what you have are people that came from other worlds in one way or another. Some were brought here because they weren't that advanced, they could be used. Some came here because they saw a beautiful world that was rich to exploit. And some came here because they thought that it would be good if they tried to help the people who were being exploited, have an advocate for them. But over the course of hundreds of thousands of years, such a melting pot. And then other races from other places, uh, they showed up with their agendas. Nothing is really ever black or white. But yeah, there have been a lot of people here from a lot of different places. And the people who are here, look in a mirror, you say, well, no, I've got Earth DNA. Well, let me ask you a question if you think that. Do you know what the DNA of people like So might have been? You don't know what their DNA is like. How do you know you have just Earth DNA? It's convenient to say it that way. But it doesn't really matter anyway where you come from. I mean, people make such a big deal of that. When I first started talking about the fact that I didn't originate here, I said, whoa, you're from somewhere else. Some thought it was foolish. Others thought that it was extraordinary. I just thought it was like, so what? It's no different than, let's say I was from Australia. Well, I'm from a different place. Well, it's the same with these people that I was talking to. They're just from a different place. But they're people just like us. The universe, I wouldn't say the entire universe, but in our section of the universe, there are quite a number of planets who have people who look just like us, and they're at various stages of their own societal and personal evolution. They're not all star gods with, you know, or wearing skin, lycra suits and look like they're Thor. It's fantasy. I've met so many, and they look like people. Some are old, some are young. Some like this, some like that. Some like their hair long, some like their hair short. They're people. And people out there in our nearby cosmos, that, quite a few light years, well, and I don't know how many, but because it's always changing, but they're just people, and they have their flaws and their attributes. What separates us from them, us, this world, from them, that world, is what they know. So it's knowledge, and whatever their philosophy might be. People in this world, they developed a series of different belief structures: Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, God, Muhammad. You could name off a whole bunch of different deities. Doesn't mean they're not important, because they are to the people who have that belief structure. And it would be completely wrong to challenge anyone's belief system. You don't do that. But on other worlds, they have their own. Everyone's got their own. So you just have differences in religion and philosophy and the social structures and networking, all of that. What's important to us might not be important to them. We might drink coffee because the caffeine's great. They might drink a cup of coffee, and because they're just slightly different because of their environment, because we're all products of our environment. The epigenetics changes, us in relation to our environment. But they might drink coffee and it's like, snorting Coke. Who knows? I mean, it's just so vastly different out there. And there are good people and bad people. Bad people, in my subjective view, they don't think they're bad, but there's so much life in the universe, and we're here because it's just one of those things that happens in the universe. Life is here, life is there.
Someone who studies lost civilizations, would you say we had massive amounts of technology and somehow we destroyed ourselves and started over again and again?
Well, we didn't destroy ourselves. It wasn't us that destroyed ourselves. But there are there are so many. Yes, there have been numerous civilizations that have hit a parallel pinnacle to where we are in the world right now. And within hours, if not days, the world was basically brought to its knees. And we're heading for that again, which is another reason why I'm here. I get to see it. I wanted to. And pretty sure I'll be around after it happens, but who knows? But there are things going on most people aren't even aware of. They have no clue. And it's not that we destroy ourselves. It's easy enough to think in those terms because obviously we certainly have that propensity to do that. There's a lot of bonehead people with their finger on the trigger, either virtually or metaphorically. So it's easy to figure that would be how it would go. But no, that's not it. There's something much greater. This planet goes through cycles. And these cycles are very well defined, very predictable. And we are nearing the end of one of the major cycles. Major cycles, roughly in the neighborhood of about 12 and a half thousand years. I mean, that's a long time in relation to a person's lifetime. People live here about 80 to 100 years old. So 1,200 times their lifetime. But no, what happens is basically it's a grand cosmic cycle. And it's a repeating cycle. And you've got the 12,000, the 6,000 year cycle. 6,000 years goes the Great Flood. You've got the 3,000 year cycle. And all of those are minor cycles. 12,000 year cycle, that's a pretty big damn deal. Because that's when the Earth's poles migrate, the magnetic protection, the boundary that keeps solar wind and cosmic rays and protons, electrons, all that from hitting the Earth and extinguishing light. That is in place because there's a huge toroidal field, magnetic field around the Earth. And it is now at about 25 to 30% weak. And that's conservative estimates. It has moved from where it was for so long to now it's moved, farther. I guess if you look down, it'd be towards the east. It's going east and south. There'll come a point in time when the South Pole, magnetic South Pole, and magnetic North Pole will meet together at the Indian Ocean. Remember that North Atlantic anomaly? If you have kept up on such things, that's part of this.
Well, I'm glad that you're here because as an electrical engineer, you can break this down for us a little simpler. You're saying that the magnetic poles are going to meet in the Indian Ocean, I'm assuming somewhere near the equator. And people talk about this too, that they're going to reverse. If that's so, what
They're
happens to
not
the planet?
reverse. No, they don't reverse. You have eventually they meet over here at the Indian Ocean, and over on the other side, that's going to be another pole. That's just part of the story. The other part of the story is that there's dust coming in from the galactic plane, and that dust has already hit quite a number of stars. Anyone paying attention to what's happening to Betelgeuse? They say, oh, it's going to go supernova. There are stars between us and the center of the Milky Way that have already gone nova because this dust comes and coats the star. And when it does, it smothers the star, pressure builds, bluey, it blows it off, and it shows up to us. We call it a nova. Well, same thing's happening to our sun. Did you ever notice the sun seems more white than yellow anymore? And that's because of more intense emissions of helium. The sun. Well, so it's for our world, which has happened over and over and over again. It will be called a micronova. And that's where that dust will settle and it'll go bluey and blow it off. And when it does, the side of the world that is facing the sun is going to be met with disaster because gamma rays, which sterilize everything, and then the plasma blown off from the sun comes off the sun, superheated plasma. It's just a gas traveling through space. It becomes a solid. And we have good opportunity for that to, most likely, it'll hit the Earth, no telling how much or where. But the other thing that's going to occur is that the Earth, where it sits now, where the poles as we have it in our mind, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, we have that kind of plotted in our mind. Do a 90-degree on that. Because at that point, along this timeline, when this magnetic system shifts and the sun roars into life, the very skin of the earth will slip. And when it slips, where the North Pole is now will be pretty close to where the equator is. And where Peru and South America are now, that'll be pretty much where its center, South Pole, is going to be. Which is why we were down there looking for lost cities, because it's not the first time it happened. It's just another time. See, 24,000 years ago, Peru and South America were pretty much like they are now. So who was there 24,000 years ago, and what did they know, and what did they leave behind? That's what we were looking for, those records. Because when it shifted and South America became the South Pole, couldn't get to it. But all those wonderful artifacts and lost cities, they basically were buried under a very large sheet of ice and snow and preserved. And when the earth rolled back again, some of the glaciers remained, but most of it, it just sort of went away. The Andes pushed up even further because the weight was off that part of the world. And so then we go down there and try to find it. And we did. We found some things, remarkable things, but nothing that told us in detail that they knew what was happening. The only thing that was a good clue was a city inside of a mountain that we found, but no one knows about. And it's so damn dangerous to get to. I doubt we'll ever go back. But the only way you survive this is to go underground. So this brings up, is it Cappadocia, I think, in Turkey, the underground city.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, great place to be, because gamma rays and cosmic rays, they're not going to go very deep into the ground. They'll fry you on the surface. If they don't fry you, they will sterilize you. That's why there's a mass die-off of megafauna, whether it was mastodons or saber-toothed tigers or, the giant woolly sloths, some plants. They were sterilized. So I feel like I've kind of jumped around a bunch of different places.
That's okay. I think it's been great. So you feel like you're here to witness this time, right?
I believe so.
Are you prepared to get underground yourself?
Yeah, we usually find ourselves at remote locations where there are mines nearby, tombstone mines all over the place here. We were up in Jerome, Arizona, plenty of mines there. We don't know when it's going to happen. I know it's not going to happen, in a week or a month or even a year. It's probably another 10 years or so. But see, here's the thing that I think is better approached as a point of understanding, because I've told you what's happened on this world over and over and over again. And great civilizations like the one that exists here on Earth now, they weren't just brought to their knees. They've vanished. They're just gone. And everything that they had technologically, maybe scattered remnants here or there, a spark, something that looks like a spark plug, found digging out. Oh, that's 500,000 years old. Or there's Michael Cremo can give you 100 examples. Well, the thing that I think these other societies didn't quite grasp is that maybe this isn't necessary. And maybe that's the reason why many of us are here. And there's such an abundance of people talking about spiritual things as though it's, almost intangible and you can't really do something except go, oh, I can imagine that. It needs to be much more solid. You see, let's take Uri Geller, for example. Uri Geller could focus and he could make a broken watch start ticking. Seen it happen. And then I figured out I could do that too, and I did. It's a fun parlor trick. Gets you some notoriety if you're really looking to be, recognized. Uri Geller can bend a spoon, and some people watching this, maybe they're able to bend a spoon as well. That's dandy. Sure impresses your friends. Look at my spoon. It bends right over. Parlor tricks. But what do you suppose would happen if, I don't know, 100 or 1,000, you make up a number, don't get too grandiose, but let's say a number of people got together who could bend a spoon and understood what they were doing. They had a real talent for this. And they decided maybe things don't need to be the way they are. Maybe all it takes is just the desire and the confidence to promote something else. So let's say a planet full of people achieve this level of awareness. It's not consciousness. So I should explain this. Consciousness is the light on the wall. Metaphorically, you're in a dark room. Hit a flashlight, light on the wall. That's consciousness. Awareness is being able to look and see that it's a wall. They're two separate things. They're not interchangeable. So the people have gotten to a point where they have the awareness, and we know the polls are doing this, and this is going on, and so forth. As a decision's been made, this no longer needs to be part of the program, because perhaps all of these lost epochs throughout the ages, each 12,000 years was an opportunity for the people to get to this point where they could say, I think we've evolved beyond needing this any longer. And instead of the sun turning red and then going black and then exploding outward towards us, it's exploding in all directions, really, but we see it as those towards us. What if they said, that dust coming in the center of the Milky Way galaxy, all we need to do is just go, we don't need that now. Just move it away. If you have ever seen a person focus on something and move it, and I have, and I've done it, what do you suppose a whole bunch of people going, oh, that dust isn't really necessary, just make it go away? Do you suppose that there would be the beginning of a new point in the evolution of people in this world? Because it would require cooperation, a lack of fear, more compassion, kindness, and a desire to become more than they've ever been and to work cooperatively. In my thinking, why not? It's possible. I've seen Art Bell's audience of who knows how untold many hundreds of thousands all focus on it raining in Texas years ago. Huge drought. By God, it rained the very next day. Not a flood, but it just rained. And it set things in motion, so the drought had ended. That's people working towards a common goal cooperatively, without any fear, with confidence and a sense of compassion, where kindness is involved. They can make it rain. Why does this planet have to go through absolute devastation? Because I assure you, those who will be left alive represent about 5%. That's a high number, but let's say 5% of the people alive on the world at the time this occurs. 5% survive. And then it's going to take another 3,000 years to organize to scattered communities, another 3,000 years to develop religion and religious attributes and belief structures. Not everybody has the same religion or belief structure because they're all in different places. They're not in communication. But at about 6,000 years, cities are being built. Progress is being made. Another 3,000 years, and you get a little bit further along the evolutionary line. And then right around 11,800 years, you have two people talking to themselves, much like you and I are now. It's all happened before. That's how long it takes to recover from this, about 11,800, 900 years. Because the next shift is on its way.
Do you think 11,800 years people were considering being able to collectively not have this happen, just like you're saying today?
No, because what happened is lost in stories, mythology. The stories become, well, it's just like having a glass of milk and pouring it into a gallon of water. It becomes quite diffuse. It's not even the real thing that it was anymore. And trying to extract the truth out of this terrific diffusion is impossible. And so people go looking for ancient places where maybe they made a record, and maybe if they did, you could understand it because it's not the same language we're familiar with. And if they did make a record and we do understand it, it'll be a small enclave of people who'll look at it and go, are they just telling a big story, or was this real? But science gets to a point where they can drill down into the data. They can get samples of glass beads from the moon. The only way that happens is with the sun going micronova. And they drill down into the earth and they start looking through the layers in the ice and the layers in the earth. And they start understanding the science. And everything that I've told you isn't me telling you something that I am just saying. This is based upon absolute scientific empirical evidence that it has happened and it will happen again. The last time it happened, Pacific Ocean washed over to the right, sloshed back to the left. And there are some terrific places that are left just in shambles. The earth shook violently. Tiwanaku, Oapunku. All you see now is what's sticking out of the silt from the ocean that washed over them. You go up into Bolivia, 16,000 feet, 17,000 feet. You see the skeletal remains of huge whales and fish and dolphins and other marine creatures at 16,000, 17,000 feet. Just there. This time, when it happens, it's going to happen differently because the earth is going to tilt a different way. Remember, it's back and forth like this, and now we're like this again. 24,000 years was like this and tilted. Another 12,000 years, and this 90 degrees, and then 12,000 years, boom, it tilts back up here. This next time, when it tilts, it's going to come from the east. and it'll flow over the Appalachian Mountains. The highest peak on the Appalachian Range will be maybe a foot above the water line as it flows over it. The Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America now, it'll go flowing, go traveling inland. There's a place in Texas called Rockwall, Texas. You probably are familiar with that.
I think that's a suburb of Dallas, isn't it?
I don't know. I've never been there. But this was a huge city that now is completely smothered with silt when this happened last time. I mean, we're talking 50-foot tall walls. These people built a fortress. And all that's left is an empty field of silt for when the Gulf emptied up into Texas. The Great Lakes will leave their shore. They'll go east, or they'll go westward, just like the Atlantic Ocean. Then there'll be a sloshback. Sloshback's actually a lot worse. And, you know, the only place that's safe is, I don't know, maybe northern New Mexico, eastern Colorado. You know, most places far from water, we're kind of in that place now. You know, 5,000 feet is pretty much the pin on the map for altitude or elevation, but not on the Appalachian side. You know, these people experienced in North Carolina, that's nothing compared to what will happen when this occurs. New York City will not exist.
I'm not 100% following you on how the Earth will shift. Let's say the Earth is straight and North America's here. Are we going to turn 90 degrees so North America will be now South America?
No, no. You'd have to have a globe to properly identify where the equator's at. But no, we're not going to switch ends. We're going to go over on the side. The only place that doesn't change very much is where the equator is in Africa. For some reason, it just stays the same. It's probably because it's a pivot point. But no, what's happening is that the mantle gets superheated. Okay, you've got the electromagnetic field around the Earth. The sun is putting off more and more, and this is electromagnetic energy. It goes into the Earth. That causes everything inside to heat up. There is a boundary where you have a semi-liquid rock and then rock. When this thing heats up, it's not semi-liquid. It is quite thin and viscous. Simultaneous to this electromagnetic energy going into the Earth, which is heating this up, is electricity. And that electricity wants to go back out again. And when it goes back out, it's moving straight up. It's not exactly straight up, but it's moving up. There are what's called L-shell bands. And it's moving up and it's cascading and arcing around on the Earth, coming up and going back down again. The entire upper fields of the Earth, like the ionosphere, for example, that becomes supercharged. The mesosphere, where we're at, it becomes supercharged. This is where lightning bolts of the gods, comes from, because it becomes supercharged. Anyway, this crust becomes floating now on a liquid, and fluid dynamics and the shape of the Earth and where the weight is on either end of the Earth, the greatest weight of the ice caps. This whole thing just causes it to move, to find equilibrium. It isn't happening like in an instant. It's happening over the course of some time. I don't know if it's hours or days. It's not a long time, but it moves. And when that occurs, the Earth has found equilibrium again. And now, where the North and South Pole were at, Indian Ocean is somewhere out in the Pacific. And now there is, by the way, the I think it's called the North Pacific Anomaly, South Atlantic Anomaly. But this is where the new poles show up. And for sure, Alaska, Canada, those will be close to the equator. South America, the Amazon Basin, Brazil, Peru, those are the South Pole. It is quite a mind-numbing situation.
Is there a diagram online somewhere that shows how the Earth will look after this that we can look at?
Well, yeah, actually, what you and your audience can do, go to YouTube. There is a fellow, his name is Ben Davidson. He's much more educated on this than I am. You're looking for a YouTube channel called Suspicious Observers. When you go there, you want to look at the disaster playlist.
Hmm. Wow.
This is all based on empirical evidence. It's science, it's not conjecture. Every bit of it is nailed down to the floor in science. And begin your education. This is a very real thing. It's not conjecture.
Jerry, due to time, I have to wrap things up here. But before we go, if people want to find out more about expeditions.tv or any of your other websites, where should they go looking?
All right. Well, first off, expeditions.tv no longer exists. I retired that one. It is now within jerrywillsshow.com. I do shows like you do. And I know you've got hundreds. I have hundreds too. So maybe not as many hundreds, but I have hundreds in there on all kinds of topics, just like you. So jerrywillsshow.com. But if they want, they can join the newsletter and they can stay up to date with what we're doing, or new videos that I'm putting on to my site, new interviews that I'm doing. The newsletter is probably the best way to stay informed.
Well, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you available for that? And if so, how can they reach you?
Sure, it'd be fine. It might take me some time to answer because, like I said, I am overwhelmed right at the moment with clients. Healer, as a healer, it's a world of sick people. So I'm overwhelmed with clients. But if they want to reach out, that's fine. There is a contact page at either of those two websites. So jerrywills.com, contact page. jerrywillsshow.com. There's a contact page there too. It all goes to the same place as to Kathy. Well, I see him too.
Before we wrap it up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
Absolutely. One of the greatest things that you can do in your life is to stop trying to figure out why you're here. No one's going to be able to tell you that. Instead, I suggest that maybe the reason why you're here is to be happy. If you're not happy, then try to identify why not. Because I assure you, life is short. And you don't want to go to the other side and have these desperate feelings that I had, that I could have done better if I'd have just done this or done that. Every moment of your life, every day, every night, every hour, every minute, it's important. Do something so you won't have any regrets. If you're afraid to do something, then I encourage you to do it. Because maybe you're afraid because someone told you you should be. Try to find joy within yourself, find peace within yourself, in the people you encounter. It'll be easy to be around them, even if they're not happy, because your presence might just change their life just because you're being you. So that's my message. I hope it helps.
Jerry, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
It has been a privilege. Thank you for inviting me on. I am really grateful. It's a good time.
Thank you. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.